Welcome back to another episode of the Keep Fantasy Great Pod. As always, I'm your host and commissioner. Welcome in. Today we have a good episode for you. I'm going to touch on the power rankings a little bit. I know last week I kind of brushed those off to the side. I'll change things up this time. And then I'm going to welcome in two special guests on the pod. For today, power rankings at number 1, as always, as I have done all year, I have Bartus at 5-0. Until he proves us otherwise, Bartus is sitting at number 1 with his heavy package. I'll brush on that a few times. Pause. But, no, Bartus has a good team. You know, the tight ends are doing it. Josh Allen's doing it with Ramondre and Dameon Pierce kind of coming out of nowhere. Bartus is a solid team. First in points, 5-0. No complaints there. At number 2, it's going to be the same again. I got Josh, 4-1, our only 4-1 team. He sits 3rd in points. He's got one of the deepest wide receiver rooms I've seen in a while. When you can have Olave as your 5th wide receiver, you know you have a pretty deep room. With your running backs, you know, Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley have been emerging. They've been great. Saquon, top 3 back. Miles Sanders has been a solid RB2 to have so far. So Josh's team been unstoppable so far. Put him at number 2. At number 3, I'm keeping Dhruv there. Dhruv's at number 3. Team solid again. Breece Hall kind of coming up right as Antonio Gibson's coming down is perfect for him. Gets Breece Hall cemented in the backfield. Probably going to overtake Aaron Jones as his RB1 and push Aaron down to the RB2 spot. But other than that, Drew's solid. You know, you got Cooper Kupp, who's giving you unbelievable season yet again, to no one's surprise. Mike Evans. Outside of that, you know, there are some concerns with the tight end play, but everyone's got those problems. Nothing to worry about there. At number 4, I got myself. After starting 0-2, rattled off 3 straight, which I knew my team was capable of. There's no doubt there. I like my team a lot. You know, you got your Nick Chubb and Dalvin Cook duo, which is probably one of the best duos in the league, to pair with some great wide receivers in Devontae Adams. A.J. Brown's solid. Marquise Brown's been great in the absence of Hopkins. Get one more week out of that. Justin Herbert has not been what we've wanted him to be so far, but other than that, the team is solid from top to bottom with some decent depth play for plug and play in the flex and during bye weeks. At number 5, I have Steve. Steve's come a long way since the beginning of the year. I think, you know, we started off like, hey, he drafted 4 running backs in the first 5 rounds. Why aren't these running backs performing? We're seeing them perform now. Derrick Henry's been great. Josh Jacobs has been amazing. And even David Montgomery's been solid when healthy. I think it's been great so far for Steve there. Stephon Diggs has been one of the, if not, you know, top 3, top 4 fantasy wide receiver this year. You know, there are some concerns with the depth and a lot of the injuries that's happened. Cordell Patterson going down, Mike Thomas getting down. But if this team can get healthy, I think Steve will battle and be able to kind of keep himself in the top half. At number 6, I have Cactus. Cactus has kind of yet to impress anyone this year with his team and the way his team's been. But I think there's hope for the future. I think CMC is great. I think Tyreek Hill's been awesome. When you look at it, he's had those QB concerns. But if he can get some stability at quarterback, I think he's got a solid team and a solid core around him that can kind of help him produce week to week and kind of get that next jump up into the next level. At number 7, I have Emmet. Emmet's been streaky at times this year, you know. It's kind of come when Lamar's got 50, Emmett's team goes off. If Lamar is kind of normal, the rest of his team's kind of normal. I think it's tough. Najee's been awful to start the year. The split backfield with Etienne and Robinson's been tough on Emmet because you have 2 guys in the same backfield and neither one of them's taking that spot. James Robinson started early. Now we're seeing the shift into Etienne just a little bit. I like Jamar Chase. He just hasn't been the number 1 wide receiver that Emmet drafted him to be. I think Emmet seems solid, and there's only room for improvement. Even though at 3-2 to be saying that, that's a pretty good sign there. At number 8, I have Greg. At number 9, the past 2 weeks, I bump him up. He finally got the performances we wanted. Debo's been a little bit better. Eckler's been awesome. Now the number 1 running back in fantasy. Quickly how that turns. But, you know, it's been a hangover for Greg so far. I think he's got some bright spots in Eckler. He's got Hurts. He's got Debo. Those guys will do well moving forward. You got to get those other pieces involved. It was nice to see Greg kind of finally get over that 115-ish hump that he's kind of been stuck on, that 110 area. Jump all the way 130 plus. been great to see. I think if you can get Keenan healthy and back, Waller healthy and back, team will be better and have a chance to even shoot for the playoffs for the rest of the year. At number 9, I have Shijin. We've been saying it all year with Shijin, where I felt like we've liked his team and it's been up there, but 4 out of 5 weeks he's been under 110. He had one crazy outburst week, and that's the outlier week. When the rest of your weeks are at 110, that's the one outlier, not the 110s or the 105s that he's had. You'd like to see some get some more consistent play from Shijin's been very streaky at times. You got guys like Kamara going off last week. The rest of his team takes a back seat. Yeah, in the past, Higgins goes off. You've seen his wide receivers, Samuel, Christian Kirk, Jalen Waddle. But then they take a back seat. The running backs are getting going. And if Shijin can find a way to put that all together, I think he can make that jump and kind of come back from this. And then at number 10, I have Barrera. Due to motivation and probably the most holes on the team for this year. I like Barrera's team, don't get me wrong. The motivation, he just doesn't seem to be fully into it this year. The running backs, it's tough. He's had a lot of injuries, but the running backs are his bright spot, even with the injuries. Jeff Wilson, Leonard Fournette, having Jamal, having Swift has been great for him. It was good to see Gabe Davis get after it last week, but the problem with Barrera's team has been the quarterback. He was one of the last people to take a quarterback. We've seen that now and how it's affected. Dalton Schultz's injury and also when playing has just been totally irrelevant. And the wide receiver room, you got to get Cooks in there. You got to get Gabe Davis in there. And outside of that, it's been, we look at his team now, it's just waiver wire guys. You got your Ayuk, you got your MVS, Zay Jones. No one that you're throwing the towel in for. Not the greatest depth in the world, but if we're going to kind of get some wild play from one of those guys, he might have a good chance. But that'll wrap up my power rankings. I got Bartus at 1, Josh at 2, Dhruv at 3, me at 4. At 5, I have Steve. At 6, I have Cactus. 7, Emmet. 8 is Greg. 9 is Shijin. 10 is Barrera. That'll cap off my power rankings for this week, and we'll get you into the next segment. Now for our next segment, we're going to welcome in two beloved brothers of our fantasy league. We got Cactus Bartus and we got Justin Bartus. How are we doing today, fellas? Welcome in.
Good, bro. Thanks again for having me on. I think this is my third time on the pod. I always look forward to it.
First time. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, Cactus coming in off a tough loss this past weekend. Nice of him to show his face on this part. We've had a lot of fantasy losers come in the week after and discuss with their opponent that just won. I know I did it with Bartus in week 2. We had Dhruv come in as well right after he lost to Bartus. But then me, you got to face me. I love it.
Yeah, it's rough.
Nice to be on the other end of that. But today we got a good segment for you guys. We're gonna have Cactus. We're gonna have Bartus face off in the Fantasy 5 this weekend. Not only in fantasy are they facing off, they're facing off in the Fantasy 5. And we'll also do a little look ahead and do some matchup previews and some team breakdowns. We'll start it off here on Thursday Night Football. We're gonna have Shijin at 1-4 versus Dhruv at 3-2. Taking a look at Shijin's team, it's 1-4. It's been a rough start for him so far. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, and right now what you're seeing is just, a lack of consistency across the board. We talked about it in the pre-show, just like in the 5 weeks this year, his point totals have been under 110 in 4 out of the 5. So We're not getting the consistency. I think there's a lot of talent on this team too, especially at, the running back and the wide receiver positions. It's just, Kamara's been banged up, had a big week last week, Taysom, all the vultures, and Mixon, not a lot of touchdown luck either. But now we'll see. Waddle banged up a little bit with T. Higgins banged up. It's just, how is this team going to get back on track?
Yeah. And I think the clear weakness in this team, and as we see right now, he's starting Robert Tonyan. Obviously not his clear-cut starter because he started with Kyle Pitts. That's been also a clear reason why, he started 1-4 because Kyle Pitts, not only has he been injured, he's just been completely inconsistent, and his ADP has, reflected how bad he's been so far. So,
when you take a look at Kyle Pitts, and he's almost been consistently bad, especially dating back to last year. I know, Bartus, you owned him, but it's tough. You spend the draft capital in that 3rd round to take a tight end. You hope they're at the top, like the heavy package sitting over there with Kelsey and Andrews, but it doesn't work out for the best. But no, it's been tough. I mean, do you think that he has that team right now to kind of push forward and come back a little bit, or do you think he's got to spice it up and make a little move, go with a different lineup? I notice every week, he's got that same lineup out there. It's just not producing yet so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really panic mode necessarily. I mean, we talked about the points haven't been there. But like I said, I really like the talent. And, Kyler Murray hasn't been all that he's been hyped up to be this year. He does get Hopkins back after
this week.
Yeah, after this week, so after 6 weeks. So hopefully that. I mean, maybe he'll go with the stack. Maybe that can be a quick, revitalization for this team. But I don't think he needs to hit the panic button. Christian Kirk needs to get back on track too. But I don't think there's too much to worry about. I don't think you should blow it up. But if nothing really happens this week or next week, season can be over pretty quick.
And another thing that we always look at too is it's just a situational thing for some of those guys. The Jaguars just took a dump facing the Texans last week. Mm-hmm. I think they'll get back on track with Christian Kirk. Also, Jalen Waddle without Tua and without Teddy Bridgewater too. So that's a huge factor when you look at someone that should be putting up, probably north of 16 points per game. T. Higgins probably come back healthy. It's really just in terms of the guys he has right now. Will they produce as they should be?
Yeah, I mean it's been an up and down year for Shid. You got guys like Kamara who were able to produce last week, but then the rest of the team shits the bed. You date back a couple weeks. Christian Kirk had that explosive start, but yet you couldn't get Kamara and Mixon going right away. So it's just kind of been on and off. Some guys doing it, some guys not, and I think that's resulted in the low point totals that we've seen so far from Shijin. Hopefully he can get some consistency moving forward. We'll see if he breaks that this week against his opponent, Dhruv, sitting at 3-2. Bartus, you had him number 1 in the power rankings to start the year post-draft. Has he lived up to it for you?
Yeah, so 3-2 right now. I think his losses have both been close, and just looking at this team on paper, it's really talented. And now that Breece Hall has bloomed into a star, really dangerous. And he's obviously earned your respect in the power rankings every week, and in mine as well after the draft. It has paid off. Now we're seeing Gibson phased out, but like we said, now with Breece Hall really kind of taking over that Jets backfield, at least that's solved. So many teams in this league with RB2 problems. That's good that he's gotten that. And, with Cooper Kupp, the guy is just literally ridiculous. I mean, just literally chalk him up for 20, 25 a week to start, along with Patrick Mahomes and, some other quality receivers.
And, Justin was just talking about, quality receivers. This Garrett Wilson is his wide receiver 5. He'd be starting on at least half the teams in this league. So to have that guy just ready to have that depth is insane to think about.
Mm-hmm. I mean, talking about depth, you also have Allen Lazard, too, and he's caught a handful of passes from Rodgers since coming back as well. Tom Brady on the bench, a lot of teams with the quarterback troubles. Do you see Dhruv kind of making a splash play in the trade market, or you think he's hold on through the bye weeks, in case of any injuries, and just kind of chug forward with this roster?
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to Josh. I mean, last week's episode talking about trades. Rumor mill has it that Dhruv isn't even interested in hearing what people have to offer. Rumor mill, so nothing confirmed, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't think so. I wouldn't. I mean, I don't really know if there's a significant upgrade necessary, besides maybe a tight end. But Muth has been pretty solid, at least given the state of tight ends in this league. So I don't think it's necessary.
I think a common theme you'll hear when we talk about everyone's team until we get to yours will be they're missing a tight end. I'm not sure. I'm not sure there's a solution to all of our problems out there. There's only a hand, 2 of them to go around, and you own them both. But outside of that, just in terms of 3-2 start, Cactus, do you see this team? Is there any future struggles or concerns kind of moving forward, or?
As long as Breece Hall doesn't split carries with Michael Carter, which can be difficult because, as we saw, I think Michael Carter had 2 touchdowns in the red zone last week. Vulture. So if he keeps taking those touches away from Breece Hall, those valuable touches, it could be a little difficult. As long as Breece Hall is getting those touches midfield, he's getting those catches. As we saw, I think he had a 70-yard catch to get them down there in the first place. In terms of like other pieces, I really don't see, any kind of flaws here. Patrick Mahomes is just going to do what Patrick Mahomes does. As Justin said before, Cooper Kupp's just a lock for 24 plus points. Mike Evans is going to just produce. Maybe the only other person I could think about that would be a question mark is Deontay Johnson, just because that Steelers offense is going through kind of like, I guess, like an upheaval with Kenny Pickett starting, and Matt Canada is quite possibly one of the worst offensive coordinators in the league right now. So that's just whether Deontay Johnson will survive, whatever is going on in Pittsburgh.
Right. Drew's got that depth, though, to plug and play, hopefully, moving forward. Looks good. Early leans right now. ESPN has this at about Dhruv minus 7.5 favorite here on Wednesday. Who do you guys like? I know we have our Fantasy 5 matchup. Who's your early lean here for the both of you?
Yeah, especially with the guy sitting right here. I don't want to go too in depth into what I'm doing. I am coming off another victory. Got to just tout that a little bit.
And staying hot.
So that's my second of the year. But yeah, I'm looking at it, and I like the matchups. That Shijin has. The one concern is T. Higgins. Like, is he going to play? It is only Wednesday. We don't know if he's going to play or not. I saw a source say 50-50. But Dhruv on the other end of it, he has great matchups too. It's Cooper Kupp against Carolina, Pat Mahomes in probably a game that's going to be 80 points. If the recent weeks have shown anything against Josh Allen and Buffalo, that's going to be the best game of the week or maybe the year so far. We'll see. So right now, I'll lean towards, I think, Dhruv. Mm-hmm. But I would like Shij to at least cover that 7.5 point spread, at least out of the gate.
Early lean for me, I think I have just Dhruv kind of not running away from it with it, but, just kind of taking it in stride easily the way he has been for most of the season. Like Justin said, a lot of these matchups that Dhruv has, like we didn't even talk about the running backs. Yeah. Both Aaron Jones and Breece Hall facing shitty run defenses.
They're facing each other.
Exactly. And as a Green Bay fan, I can tell you Breece Hall's going to eat.
Yeah.
So, just the matchups that, that they've got is a lot for Dhruv, and it's probably going to just pick him up and just take it away from him.
Yeah, everyone here likes Dhruv in the battle for India. I didn't mention it before we got into it, but Shijin leads the season series or the career series 4-3. A good chance for Dhruv here to even it up at 500. Moving on to our next matchup, we have the Sunday 1:00 Emmet, and we have Barrera. Barrera comes in at 1-4, coming off that huge year last year. He was able to make the championship, surrender defeat to Greg, but it hasn't been that this year. It's been a lot of struggles, and it's kind of been back to some of his old habits. What do you guys want to take away here from Barrera's team? Where have the struggles been so far?
Yeah, I'm just looking right now. I'm looking at his schedule. So obviously on a 4-game losing streak, not ideal at any point. He won week 1, but the last, if there is, it's a little sign of encouragement, I think, at least, right? He's getting through these injuries that he's dealing with. So Jamal Williams has been stepping in for DeAndre Swift. So not really much of a loss there necessarily. Javonte was a big loss, but of course he spent the money on Jeff Wilson. And I got to give him credit. The addition of Njoku was really nice, right? Like he was aggressive during that. I think it was like the week 3 or 4 waivers,
right?
On Njoku, and he's proven to be really solid, and his outlook only looks better with Watson coming back. But right now, 129 and 127 the last 2 weeks compared to 95 and 80 in weeks 2 and 3. So the points for Barrera are looking up, and like I said, these pieces are really starting to come back. And a potentially, at least based on the projections, winnable game here. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we'll see if he'll get back on track.
Yeah.
And clearly, even with all the injuries, Barrera's strengths are still at the running back. Like Justin said, spent that money on Jeff Wilson. He's been producing, even though Tevin Coleman had 2 touchdowns. I still think he's going to get the yardage against Atlanta this week.
Yeah.
And Fournette's just Fournette. Fournette will run for maybe 50 yards, but he'll also catch. I think he caught 10 balls last week. He was just all over the place. Tom Brady's, I think, his favorite target, honestly. He's just the dump-off king right now. Kirk Cousins is a little bit, of a weird kind of starting QB, especially when, Jared Goff is your starter. Now he's on bye. Now you have to go for Kirk Cousins. But he's facing against Miami. Again, no Tua, no Teddy Bridgewater. I think it's Skylar Thompson, I think is his name. Like, they're going to kill him. So Kirk Cousins could easily throw for 2 touchdowns there. So not a bad pickup. And Justin said Njoku, too. He's filling in some of the holes that he's had due to injury. And I think that, he might be able to grind out a win here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just looking at Barrera's team, it's clear to see where the weakness lies and has lied all year so far. You're looking at that wide receiver core, and it's a funny one to look at, I guess. You got Gabe Davis, MVS, Zay Jones, and Brandon Ayuk to highlight. We're coming off just talking about Drew's team and his wide receiver core. I'm not sure if, maybe Gabe Davis makes that list, but outside of that, the rest of these guys, interesting core to look at, just to say. Swinging things over to the other side, we have Emmet at 3-2. It's been a weird year for Emmet. Hasn't been all rainbows and butterflies. Sitting at 3-2, above 500. Where does it lie for Emmet here? He struggled last week. Is it more of that, more of the same, or can he bounce back again?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, anytime you have, and I was looking at the odds this morning actually for Offensive Player of the Year. So on FanDuel, there was 4 guys tied at plus 600.
Okay.
That's leading. That's the lowest odds for that. It's Cooper Kupp, as you'd imagine, Justin Jefferson, and in this with Josh Allen, potentially running away with MVP. It's too early to say that. But then it's Jalen Hurts and Lamar. So anytime you have a guy that's going for Offensive Player of the Year, I mean, you're going to be in good shape. So we haven't seen the outrageous 50-point performances from Lamar, but definitely enough to, give Emmet that boost that he needs around the 25, 30-point. But, yeah, it's definitely – I like the talent on this, too. It's like, we know that Emmet loves the rookies and the young players, and they're in good situations. It's just right now it's, again, in line with Shijin's team. It's just the consistency hasn't really been there on a week-to-week basis. He goes off for 160 one week and then, last week posted 75. So just like if he can get that consistency, then it's really good, and Jamar is not playing his best football. That you can imagine won't last, especially if T sits this week, then he would just go bonkers. But yeah, I mean, right now it's just a little inconsistent, but 3-2, you got to like where he's at. And, I think this team is, definitely in line for a playoff spot should they continue this way.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of we're looking at Emmett's team, like a lot of his early picks have floundered a little bit. Like obviously Najee has not been what Emmet needed him to be. ETN is splitting the carries with James Robinson. It's kind of killing both of them because they're doing that.
Yep.
But like Justin said, Jamar is going to go off eventually, and then he'll be back where he left off. Devontae Smith is still a very good player. I think he had that one good game against the Commanders so far. So he's flashed that potential. If Jalen Hurts stops running the ball at the 1-yard line, maybe he can get a touchdown or 2.
Yeah.
And Jerry Jeudy, Romeo Doubs in the flex positions. Romeo Doubs is, I think, shown himself to be, the number 1 right now, even though Allen Lazard is getting a lot of the attention. Romeo Doubs has shown that he could be that route runner, that go-to guy for Rodgers. So it's just a matter of whether, the guys that Emmet has invested a lot in, Tyler Conklin, he spent a lot of money on. ETN was, I think, his 4th or 5th round pick. It's just whether those guys can produce, and if they do, then he has a good chance.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of young bucks on this team, so you're going to get that inconsistent play. The young guys, they'll have their pop-off weeks, but then they're due to regress just a little bit. Hopefully you can get that consistency with Emmet. It's going to be tough, though. That split backfield in ETN and Robinson. It started off with Robinson firing out of the gates, and now we're swinging kind of back the other way where ETN's starting to lead in the snap percentages and on the field more. So maybe, ETN will swing back, and Emmet can only hope one of them takes the reins, because you never want, your Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon situation where it's 50-50 or, you want one of them to kind of lead and be the premier back in their time. Looking at this matchup, it is probably our most even one projection-wise. Barrera leads the career series 6-3, so Emmet has not been able to find any strengths against him. But it's a pick'em game, And who do you guys want to pick?
Yeah, he's giving me the first again.
Yeah, because he
He's
wants to listen to your expertise. You know, he knows you
I already
run
know
the
who I'm
Fantasy
gonna pick, so
Five.
I don't need that little banter there.
All right, so go ahead. So get us.
All right.
You got to start.
All right, I'm leaning towards Barrera.
Oh,
I think that his running backs will carry him through this. Gabe Davis, last time he faced Kansas City, he had 3 touchdowns over 100 yards in playoffs. So I think he can go off again.
yeah.
And Kirk Cousins, like I said, I think he's going to be good for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's enough. I think he'll be able to pull this off, honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely going to be close. I mean, I'm just looking at the matchups here. I personally like Gabe Davis, so he's got 2 wide receivers going in that game. Pittsburgh just showed they actually weren't even getting shredded against the run against Buffalo. It was just Josh Allen going nuts to Gabe Davis, to Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, Barrera has everybody in the 1 o'clock window except for the guys in that Buffalo KC game. Early on, I mean, something can change, but I think I like Emmet in this one. We said Najee, hasn't really looked that great, and the snaps have definitely not been in his favor. Volume was what he was hanging his hat on last year, and it's just not even there this year. So, and he gets Tampa Bay. That I don't like. But I do like ETN's involvement. Like we said, the Jamar Chase breakthrough game is going to come. So at this point, I'm expecting T to sit. He's been getting hurt like during every single game, sits for longer periods of time. He was ruled out early on Sunday night. And Gronklin, Emmett's tight end, Gronklin. We'll see. I like him getting into the end zone. I'm going to take Emmet in like a 3 to 5 point victory, and one that will be decided by the judge on Monday night. The last time that happened, Emmet got his win in Week 1.
There you go. It should be a close one. I mean, Emmet definitely has a few tough matchups there. Lamar going up against one of the best defenses in the league, if not one of the best teams in the league. Having to travel all the way to New York to play the 4-1 New York Football Giants. So it'll be tough. I don't know if he gets that 50-point week that we've seen in the past, maybe floating around the 20 range, but this was really just a way for me to shout out the Giants in a nice 30-second segment. We'll push along to our 425 and stay on track here as we get into Steve versus Greg. An interesting matchup. A lot of buys for Steve this week. He's 2-3 so far. He goes up against Greg, who's 1-4, our previous champion, having a hangover, and he's been hungover. Can one of you tell me why?
I mean, the hangover is just, I think, inconsistency in the lineup. Again, Eckler didn't really get going until 2 weeks ago, where he's, peeled off 2 games of 34 plus.
Right.
Debo is producing, but not on the level that he drafted him at. Second round pick. Mm-hmm. I think he's averaging around 14 to 15 points a game. That's not something that you necessarily, expect from your second round pick. Lockett's been a breakthrough for him, but that's also been evened out by James Conner. I think his highest game of the season is 16, which we had in Week 1. Now you got Eno Benjamin taking 20-yard carries to the house. Like, how do you what do you make of that? Right. And not only that, like, his only tight end, Darren Waller, is not only hurt but on bye. So you wonder what he's going to do there. I've heard a little bit of chatter. He's trying to acquire a tight end from a couple of the teams. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and that's 100% right. And James Conner has not lived up to his expectations. Hampered all year because of an injury so far, and like you said, there was an emergence in the backfield by But yeah, I mean, a tight end, not good. Waller, really sad what happened. Greg, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm happy that Kelsey really went off, so that if Kelsey scored 11 points and I won by 1, then I'd feel really bad. But with Kelsey putting up a 36 burger, I don't really feel bad.
On 24 yards too.
Yeah, we heard a record today. Yeah. So least yards in a 4-touchdown performance. Yeah. So like fullback-esque effort from Kelsey. We love it. But yeah, I mean, with the flex positions, it's been hard with Keenan Allen out. So I mean, Greg's going to be getting that back. I think the arrow is looking up. I mean, this was his first week that he scored over 120. So going forward, I like his team, honestly. Going forward, it could be a lot worse at 1-4. It's just are we going to be able to string that together?
Right, yeah. I mean, talking to two champions like yourselves, I mean, let's get into that hangover a little bit. It's real, and I know Greg didn't buy into it. He had a lot of warning from the league, and not only the league, but the champions themselves. No champion has made the playoffs following their championship year. You two both got hit with it, and hit with it hard early on. Has that been affecting Greg at all mentally, and is it more just he hasn't been able to produce on the field?
I think he's still got that kind of like I don't want to call it this, but he's still got that hubris going, where he's like, oh, I've got that streak, like I've started 0-4, and I've pulled it off, like I'm still gonna make the playoffs.
Right.
Like I think he needs to actually start thinking that this is a possibility that he's gonna miss the playoffs, because as of right now, he's out. Like he's what, the 9 seed or the 10 seed?
Tied in the bottom of the barrel.
Either way, he's the bottom 2 teams. Like he's out of the playoffs right now. So I think he's got to make a change, because he still thinks that this is not a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Justin's went through it. I've gone through it. Every single champion has gone through what Greg is going through right now, and he needs to actually like think that this could happen to him too. Like we knew which streak was going to end, and it was going to be Greg's playoff streak. He didn't think that, and it's clearly shown that you cannot escape the championship curse.
Yeah. Been a real hangover. We'll swing back to the other side. Another streak that we have going. We have Steve 2-3. He's never made the playoffs. Greg's never missed. Steve's never made it. Does Steve have the team this year to make it?
I think so, man. And I'm looking at it, and a lot of teams' quarterback is one of their strongest players. Burrow hasn't necessarily been there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But Steve's running backs have had a resurgence the last couple weeks. I mean, Henry looks really good again, right after we were talking all that shit. I mean, he did this last year too, where he got off to a slow start and then ended up breaking out. So it's good to see him. Football is, I think, better when Derrick Henry is rumbling defenders over, when he's catching passes, when he's getting into the end zone. So that's good that he's going. And Jeff Jacobs, I mean, we love this. Like we said, right? It took only 4 mediocre years. 4 mid years to break out, and now he's looking like a force, man. I mean, that game Monday night was really fun. He was just rumbling all over the place. And with Diggs, I mean, he's got the number 1 option for the best quarterback in football right now, and he's been great, averaging 24 a game. And tight end is an issue, of course, right? We go over this with every team, but I really think that the complementary pieces are fine. Like he's made the 2 trades. CPAT on IR is not going to help right now. Especially this week, we're going to get into it in a second. Really short on running backs, but just like I think that the complementary pieces are good enough, and a 6-man playoff with how thin some of the 1-4 teams are below him. I think that this is the chance for Steve to finally get there in year 7.
It is wide open for him. Anything you want to add on to that, Cactus, or you're good with Steve's
I think
team?
He basically tackled everything I was going to go for that.
Yeah, that's fine. Coming back into this, sorry for the little interruption we had. The Bartus household's getting a little crazy over there, but we'll settle things down here. We have Steve versus Greg, 2-3 versus 1-4. Greg leads the overall matchup 6-4. Right now, it's tough to gauge the spread. It has Greg -10, but Greg doesn't have a tight end, and Steve doesn't have an RB2 in. So kind of tough to gauge the point spread, but we'll just call it a pick 'em, or Greg's favored by a little bit here. Who do you guys like in this one?
I'll go first. I got Steve in this one. We've known that Steve can put up points, and yes, he's missing his 2 running backs. I think David Montgomery will eat against Washington. I think Stephon Diggs will have probably the best game of the season against the Chiefs, because it's just going to be high scoring. It's just a matter of, how his flex play out. I think Hayden Hurst will get a couple catches, even though New Orleans typically plays well against the tight end. We'll see how that goes. Mm-hmm. But that's also based on his QB, Joe Burrow's play. But, we just talked about how Jamar Chase is probably going to, especially with no T, like he could go off this week, and that will be points for Burrow too. So that's something also to consider. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of, I just think Steve has the better players for this week.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going with Greg on this one. I think Jalen Hurts prime time is going to show out. He's done that Monday Night Football in the past this year. Eckler's been unstoppable against Denver on Monday night, and he's on pace to catch over 100 balls this year. Eckler.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been absolutely rolling. That happened. I saw the firsthand last week. Nobody can tackle him. He's strong, not a big guy, but he's strong.
Yeah.
He's not easy to bring down, but nobody can bring him down. I swear. Both of his touchdown runs. So I like that. And Debo against Atlanta will probably have a field day. Tyler Lockett's been nuts. Gets Arizona. I like it. And tight end. Believe it or not, in our league, there's more quality tight end options on the waiver wire than there are running backs. Yeah. I looked at who Steve would pick up should he need. This is his only active running back.
Yeah.
Is David Montgomery this week. With 2 guys on bye, with CPAT, on IR, there's only 1 active. Who are you looking for? You're literally going to get backup running backs. That's the only thing you can get. At least tight end, you can get at least a starter, someone that's not running a ton of routes. But, I like Greg, and I think it's going to be pretty handily. I think it's going to be an 8 to 10 point W, if not more.
Okay, yeah. It's going to be a battle for Steve here. Greg's at near full strength. I won't call it full strength due to injuries and Waller being gone. But yeah, you're missing Jacobs, you're missing Henry. I'm looking at it. He only has the one running back. It's going to be a battle for Steve, but should still be a good one. Hopefully, possibly a trade coming from Steve this week. Maybe pick up a running back. Moving into our Sunday night game, we get some good matchups on Sunday and Monday night. On Sunday Night Football, we have myself in the New Era at 3-2 versus Josh Country, Olive Garden at 4-1. The New Era started off 0-2, but now has rattled off 3 straight. How was I able to do that?
Yeah, so it's part of the New Era, right? Hasn't lost the game. Been 3-0 ever since those comeback videos too. They've been a great treat. We loved the one last week. That was my favorite one. Great job. Keep making that content.
I couldn't have done it without the interview with Cactus mid video, but
that was mad fucking funny. I'm not gonna lie. I even laughed at that one. It's pretty good.
But we love it. Right now you have the RB1, Nick Chubb, or RB2, sorry. Nick Chubb has been doing great. Dalvin coming off a two touchdown performance. So basically, it's the touchdown, positive regression for you in the touchdown department. That's been huge. And, honestly, just great players up and down, and you have depth. You have Clyde on the bench, who would be a starting running back in most teams. Damian Harris about to go on the shelf, but, just a complimentary piece. Can G-Easy, Everett, get it going? That stack, that's really going to be the only thing that I think is a concern going forward. 2 strong running backs, some really strong receivers, and you got Herbo, who has been solid but not great so far. So, if he's still got, room to grow as well this year. But, yeah, 3-2. I have you at number 2 in my own personal power rankings. I'm not going to release all 10. I don't even know all 10. But I give you the respect. I think you need to give yourself some more respect going forward. But, I guess this is your chance to prove it right here against 4-1, Country Big Dog.
And, yeah, we talked about, your running backs and how you probably have, one of the best running back duos in the league right now. We're not even talking about your receivers yet. Devontae Adams, yeah, he's on bye this week. He just came off a 3-catch, 100-yard performance, 2 touchdowns, almost a Randy Moss stat line. Marquise Brown has been incredible without DeAndre Hopkins there. Even if he comes back, I still think he's going to be good because he has that kind of rapport with Lamar Jackson.
Kyler Murray.
Cooper. What? Oh, yeah, sorry.
With Kyler Murray, yeah.
Yeah. Amari Cooper, we thought he wasn't going to do as well, especially without Deshaun Watson. He's been great with Jacoby Brissett, which is a nice surprise. It's great to see. A.J. Brown, he doesn't really score, but he's getting those yards regardless. Jalen Hurts, number 1 target easily. And Justin said, Gerald Everett. I love Gerald Everett too. He's just racking up yards and catches. Not a good week last week, but I think he'll turn it around again. I think it really depends on Keenan Allen's availability.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's been good for myself so far these last 3 weeks. I've enjoyed it, and I hope it continues so I can keep providing that that content for you guys. But we'll swing things over to the other side of the field. Don't need to talk about myself for too long. We have Josh at 4-1 doing it yet again. How's his success been able to handle this year?
Yeah, and Josh's strength is coming from none other than the guy he traded up to get, Saquon Barkley. That is the RB1. No, RB3.
Yep.
Oh, God.
RB3
I think Eckler's actually the RB1 now.
Eckler's the RB1 because of his last two performances. Nick Chubb 2, Saquon 4.
Saquon
3.
was before last week, I believe.
The 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had missed some time during that game due to a shoulder injury. They said no real concern from that, so that's good. We love seeing Saquon ball. With JJ going nuts, like I said, OPOY, he's leading right now. Big Mike Williams going off. Cortland Sutton, he's the only one that can catch passes from Russ Wilson. Literally anybody. Nobody else can do that. Goddard showing some strength, which is good. Olave's been doing well, but he's a little banged up. And Josh, we're not going to do waiver wire on this but Josh splurging a little bit, $20 on Geno. And that's good. I love guys that get out and address their needs because you can't take the fab with you at the end of the season. So, spend it on Geno. At least to this point, Geno in our league with the 6-point touchdowns, number 7 quarterback. Address whatever holes you need for him. Undoubtedly, the biggest concern is quarterback. So hopefully he found his guy right here. In 4-1, he's looking really good. He's fighting for one of those buys, and I think he's got a good chance to get it.
And, someone that we didn't really talk about that's also kind of benefiting from the Keenan Allen absence, Mike Williams. Mike Williams is in his flex, only projected 13.5 this week. If Keenan Allen doesn't play, he's going to get 15-plus points. I think that's a guarantee. Just because, who else is he supposed to throw to? Yeah. Obviously not Josh Palmer because he's not getting those targets. Gerald Everett only had 1 catch last week. It all went to either Eckler or Mike Williams. So, as we said, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, each 3 respective at their positions. Geno Smith splurged a little bit. Based on his past, we don't know how he's going to be, but he's been more than solid the past few weeks. Who else? Michael Pittman kind of taking a step back because Matt Ryan's doo-doo, but, we'll see how it goes. And Dallas Goedert, number 5 tight end on the year, in a position that is scarce beyond all reason, so it's good to have, at least some stability in that position as well.
Definitely. I think Goddard's been one. If you didn't have Kelsey or Andrews, Goddard's been probably the next best just in terms of consistency and, like you said, that stability in the tight end position. He's been solid all year. Josh's wide receiver room is loaded when you could have Olave on the bench. I don't even know if he started Olave yet. I know Olave went down with that gruesome head injury that he just had after catching a touchdown pass. But to be able to even have Olave and then not even putting him in your lineup ever just shows how ridiculous Josh's wide receiver depth really is. Looking at this matchup, Josh has owned me in years past, leading 7-4. So it'll be a tough one for me to bounce back on, especially when ESPN has Josh minus about 11.5, one of our bigger disparities in terms of ESPN projections this week. It's going to be a battle. Who do you guys like in this heavyweight matchup on Sunday night?
Yeah, I think this is the number 1 matchup of the week. The one we're saving for Monday night, it's between those two. But, I like this one with the records and, for what really is at stake here.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, I think Josh has the advantage in at least player matchups. But, another one for you, Nick, what is this, 4 straight weeks where you have your quarterback throwing to the other team's wide receiver 1 or something like that? Same team.
I had the opposite going for a while where I had the wide receiver of the other team's quarterback. Now we flip the script where I have the quarterback and my opponent has the wide receiver this time.
Okay. But yeah, yes. Not fun. But you have that with Mike Will against Denver. Another one that, if Russell Wilson's playing or not, that we're just going to have to, take our medicine and watch Russ on another primetime game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like your matchups too, though. Some of them, it's tough. It's going to be real tough. I definitely love, and this is going to be the play of the week. Definitely is Nick plus the spread, whatever it ends at. I don't think it's going to be a blowout at all. And at this point, I'm probably leaning towards Josh, but like I said, it would be close. It's gonna be a single digit effort either way. Would think Josh would come out with it right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it swung either way.
My initial thought, I got Nick. I think you're gonna get your fourth win here. It's gonna be a slugfest regardless.
Yep.
You know, touchdowns galore. I think, but Justin was talking about Josh's matchups. I'm looking at some of yours right now. You have, I think, great. Marquise Brown is going to just go off against Seattle. A.J. Brown will be the guy to lean on against Dallas. Justin Herbert is going to torch Denver, I think, just because Denver is Denver and they suck this year. And Melvin Gordon, I didn't even notice, going against the Chargers, who are the 32nd ranked rush defense this year. You know, so we'll see if it's him or Mike Boone. I think it's going to be Melvin. And, you know, Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb. He's going to get his 20. He's going to get 100 yards and a touchdown. That's just almost a fact at this point. So I like your matchups, and I think you'll keep the new era strong with your fourth win straight.
We hope so. I mean, it's going to be a stressful one at that. Josh and I both have players on Sunday night and Monday night. 4 in total from both teams. He has 2 Sunday night, 2 Monday night. I have 1 on Sunday night and 3 on Monday night. So you're not going to know early which way this matchup's going to go, just due to half of our team being playing in the late half of the day. It'll be a good one though, and it's going to be a dogfight. We'll move into our fun matchup of the week. We have our Monday night matchup, also our Fantasy 5 matchup, also on the podcast with me today, we have the Bartus Brothers heading off on Monday night to cap this off. Cactus comes in at 2-3. Bartus, you're 5-0. I don't know if you want to talk much about each other's teams or your own teams or what we like so far, but you know, Cactus, you want to start us off with your own team? How you feeling?
You know, I'm feeling kind of, I don't know if this is the right word for it, but depressed and how inconsistent we are. Because as we saw the potential of my team. 171 against Josh week 2. Other than that, I've only cracked 110 once. So it's actually like disgusting to see my team perform like that, especially since I have the playmakers. I shook the lineup a bit this week though. You know, QBs. I can't stop having an injured QB, and now I have Derek Carr on bye. And I've just found out that Aaron Rodgers, who's my replacement right now, is also injured. So we'll see how I go with that. I might have to get walking to him. But, you know, Jacoby Myers in the lineup, though. He's been fairly consistent when he plays. We'll see how that goes. No more Kittle. Kittle cannot screw me over anymore. He's staying on that bench until he proves himself. Other than that, you know, I'm feeling fairly confident this week.
Yeah. Bartus, I know, you know, we don't want to you don't want to give too much positive to the other team, but what do you like so far from Cactus team that you've seen, or maybe you want to talk about what you don't like?
I mean, first things first. I mean, I got to give him respect because he is my brother and he's a former champion. But this is not his year. I look forward to very much burying him here. The heavy package is just going to take another victim here. It's just going to go to 6-0. I don't think it's going to be very pretty. I mean, just off the bat, CMC has been good, right? We like that. We like his receiver core. DK has been a positive. I didn't expect to be seeing him do this well this year. Rico, of course, doing Rico things, and CeeDee Lamb looking good as well with Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
So, you know, good, solid pieces, right? And he's got good depth. I like Kenneth Walker now. That's a hot token right there. But other than that, I mean, the man has no quarterback, just plain and simple. It's an important fact to note that he's 2 points away from being the lowest scoring team in the league. Whether that due to quarterback injuries, whatever it is, you can't deny that fact. So he's 2 points away from being the lowest scoring team, and he's 2-3. So let's not act like, you know, it goes back to the Kittle, you know, not getting what he needed on Monday night. Instead of going to 3-2, went to 2-3. Right. Or no, what was it? Instead of being 3 that was what it was.
No, at 3 I went to 2-2 instead of 3-1.
Yeah, so that's bad. So instead of being 3-1, now he's gonna be 2-4. Not the real change that you want. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this week. It always holds a special place in my heart. We've had it circled on the calendar for a while. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, it should be a fun one in the Bartus household this weekend. You could already hear the craziness that was going off earlier today. We'll swing things over, though, to the heavy package sitting at 5-0. Bartus, you talk a lot about your heavy package. we sure like to dive deep into that as well. Cactus, what do you like about your brother's team? He is 5-0. You have to put some respect there. Is there anything you like? Anything you don't like? Maybe you want to get some clapback going early, but just be careful because you might save some receipts for him later on.
Yeah, no, definitely receipts will be coming. There's not much you can really say negative about this team. I guess maybe the receiver depth, but when you have Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce on your team, you cannot do much wrong, especially when you have Jonathan Taylor has not been at all what we expected, but that load has been carried easily by Andrews and Kelce and Josh. We can't even not forget about Josh Allen, who's going to be. I think he's the number 1 QB on the year so far. He's absolutely insane. Just does what he does every week. About to have another big game against Kansas City. I don't really like Jonathan Taylor as much this year, but he just got a huge pickup with Ramondre. The fact that Damian Harris is going to be out for a while. Ramondre is going to get at least 20 carries. Andrews and Kelce are going to do what they do. The only difference, I think, luckily for me, and this is why it's kind of a spoiler, I had me winning this matchup. It's because two of his big pieces, Amon-Ra and Dameon Pierce, on bye.
Yeah.
So those guys that he took late flyers on ended up being incredible picks for him. He doesn't have them right now, so we'll see how it goes.
You picking yourself, it does not come as any surprises. I think the whole league knows that you guys will pick yourselves in this matchup, especially. Talking a lot of loads, talking a lot of heavy package in this one. We have ESPN has this line very close, actually, as of right now, sitting at about a -2, -1.5 for Bartus. Depends on what book you have. But you guys like yourselves? Any strengths, any weaknesses? Anything, you know what? I already know about how you feel about each other's, or about your own teams. Anything that gets you a little scared, a little nervous looking at the other person's lineup for this week? Bartus shaking his head no.
Facing Justin, like I said, Ramondre, not only is he going to get 20 carries, he's going against Cleveland, who cannot tackle. We saw that with Eckler last week. They cannot tackle anyone. Yeah. So Ramondre is going to have a good game, I think. Josh Allen's actually is of course going to have to do Josh Allen things because they're facing Kansas City. That's going to be the game of the week, possibly the game of the season, depending on how it goes. Just Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, obviously the thing I'm scared about the most. But I think matchups, and if Rodgers does stay healthy, he's going against the Jets. I think that's good for 202. I think I could pull out a win here.
Yeah. Bartus shook his head. No, he doesn't care. He's not afraid at all. Nothing gets him nervous over there.
No. It's been, luck has been on my side this year. It's an even year. I keep saying it, but it's true. Even year. Love that for me. I think that I get out, and I said play of the week was you plus the spread. Right there next to it, a multi-unit play is my money line. At this point, Rico is going to be playing another game with Skylar Thompson again. That's just that puts a major ceiling on what he's going to be able to produce.
Right.
He's Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers has been good, but not really a fan. I really can't talk too much because my receivers aren't good either. I'm starting both the Morris.
Oh.
Really, we've seen this year. We've seen less of more is more. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, sure.
Considering every wide receiver on my team named not Amon-Ra or Reynolds. That's not a Detroit Lion. Is named Moore. We'll cap it at that.
Yeah, but, you do have all the Moores, and it's been a lot of less.
Yeah, except Sky. So maybe I'll have to reach out to Emmet for Sky more.
There you go.
But yeah, but other than that, no, I like my chances in this one. I expect to be 6-0. Then it would be Josh. Love to look ahead. Nobody likes to look ahead, really. Barrera especially. But yeah, nobody likes to look ahead. I do. If I get through this week and beat Josh, then I have Barrera and Emmet for a chance to go 9-0. I don't know. We have to dig into the record books for the longest undefeated streak is.
The start of season. I think it was Shijin. when he won the chip, but I could be wrong.
We could dive deep on another ep and get into who has the longest winning streak. I didn't mention it before, but you guys are 2-2 against each other all time. So this one's a really big matchup to break that barrier and get the advantage and the edge over your own brother. It's going to be a good one. Any more trash talk you guys want to lay on? Because I'm sure the league will love to hear it, and I'm sure we'll see plenty of it in the group chat coming this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, like, he talks about even year, but, he didn't make the playoffs last time he was in an even year. So, just as we saw Greg coming back from 0-4 and making the playoffs and winning the chip, we could see Justin take this loss and then take it straight to the Sacco. We'll see.
Okay, that's just outlandish. I mean, he's clearly had a long day. A lot of distractions are getting to his head. I don't think the Sacco is anywhere near the realm of possibility. Yeah, like I said, not really worried. I'd like to think of a wager eventually and then challenge him to it. Want a little extra on the line, so I'm going to get to thinking of something like that. And I'm excited. 6-0, here we come, baby. Heavy package.
Yeah, it's not happening. Whatever.
I think that'll do it for today's episode. As always, like, watch, subscribe, share it around. We'll have the real Fantasy 5 with Cactus and Bartus tomorrow in the group chat. They'll let you know who their real winners are for this week as they take a deep look into it. But other than that, I'm your host, as always, Bartus. Thank you for coming on and being on the pod. What a great week we have in week 6.
Can I add one thing before we sign off?
Yeah.
So to all of our loyal listeners and subscribers, Dhruv on the website, actually, our great CEO and developer, came up with a Jeopardy game. So if you've been following along and, if you even want to use the league history pages for the past years, definitely check out the Jeopardy game. Would highly recommend it. Everybody was trying it. It came out last night. It's a beta version. So Dhruv is going to take all the feedback he can and just continue to improve on the already incredible work that he's done. So hats off to Dhruv for that, on top of building a great team this year. Dhruv, this could be your year. It's looking solid. But we thank you for all the work that you're putting in.
Yeah, a great way to highlight that. A great job by Dhruv on that Jeopardy. And I think, maybe as we get another Jeopardy finalized, we might want to do a Jeopardy podcast episode. Something in the works for the future. But until that point, we have week 6 this weekend. From wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, always remember, keep fantasy great.